The father realized his daughter had been gone for 2 years. Just as he was about to explode in anger, he couldn't recall her name. He remembered how clingy she used to be, always finding excuses to see him. He always brushed her off. But 2 years ago, the cheerful, smiling girl became cold. An aura of power surrounded her. She had completely changed. She crushed the fools who had bullied her. They never dared to mistreat her again. He ran into her by chance. She walked past him with a cold, expressionless face. He asked why she didn't greet them. She arrogantly replied, "You're beneath me." He didn't realize Liz was no longer the same person. In her past life, the Emperor said he would forge her into a living sword. Liz thought she would be the most honored knight. Her mother died during her birth. Because of this, her family saw her as a curse. As she grew, her talent with the sword became evident, far surpassing the other knights. Longing for her family's approval, she was told, "You will be forged into a magic sword to protect the empire." Liz readily accepted the Emperor's proposal. She didn't truly understand what it meant. Etheric fragments, extracted from monsters, were force-fed to Liz every day. In the brutal experiments, she lost her flesh and blood and was forged into a magic sword. She was no longer the daughter of Duke Ronan, but the magic sword, Kayla, protecting the empire. Though a blade, Kayla's consciousness remained. The Emperor used Kayla to execute all the mages involved in her forging. He even used her to slaughter innocents. The Emperor took credit for Kayla's achievements, praised by the warriors. Every day, Liz was tormented by the sins she was forced to commit. She prayed to the gods for another life. She wanted to punish the Emperor who had tortured her. She no longer wanted to be a cursed sword. Her countless pleas finally reached the gods. They granted her rebirth. At 13, she quickly stood up but stumbled. Yes, this was the feeling of having a body again. After 400 years of torment, a miracle had finally arrived. Now, she would have her revenge. She vowed to drag the empire into an endless abyss. Looking at the girl in the mirror, she had almost forgotten her original appearance. Who would have thought that not long ago, she was a magnificent sword inlaid with sapphires? Summer had arrived. Before her rebirth, she loathed summer. But now, everything was different. She asked her maid what year it was. The maid replied, the 298th year of the empire. Liz radiated a powerful, oppressive aura. The maid dared not look directly at her. "My lady, the Duke will be returning soon." I know. Her family had blamed her for her mother's death. She had tried so hard to please them. Now, she wouldn't waste her emotions on them, because she had done nothing wrong. Though reborn, the etheric power remained within her, always at her command. She could proudly say, "I am powerful." No one celebrated her birthday. As expected, she wasn't disappointed. She wrote an application to the Royal Academy, waiting for the right moment to send it. She stood before her mother's portrait and offered the last white flower. She told her mother she was choosing a path leading to an endless abyss. Liz had already devised her plan for revenge. Before her rebirth, there was a genius who would rule the empire. The current 13-year-old prince, Dylan. Her goal was to manipulate Dylan, to turn him into a tyrant. Then, the empire's doom would begin. After 2 years of preparation, today, she would take the first step towards her revenge. This woman is cunning. On her first meeting with the prince, she wore a white dress and a blue flower crown, the same style as the prince's mother. The prince adored his mother. She knew he'd fall for this. Today is the day Liz leaves for the imperial palace. Using the Duke's influence, she became an honorary knight and secured a position as a swordsmanship instructor. This is the first and last time she'll accept her family's help. From now on, she won't resent anyone in her family. She will focus on one thing: revenge against the imperial family. "Your Highness, I am your instructor." But Liz knew that beneath his harmless exterior, he was decisive and ruthless. Her goal was to conquer Dylan, to mold him into a tyrant. "Your Highness, do you have any questions? For example, why I am your instructor?" Dylan didn't speak, but extended his hand to shake hers. But as their hands parted, she slipped something into his palm. To tame this young man, who had no shortage of women, she had to ensure she remained unreadable. Later, they sat down for tea. While pouring, she accidentally spilled some, pretending to be distracted by Dylan. Liz noticed a subtle change in Dylan's expression. He didn't say anything, but she suspected he might still be suspicious. Then a butterfly landed on her flower crown. This was another one of Liz's tricks. She had smeared honey on the flowers. Dylan was intrigued. "From now on, you are my teacher." Earning his respect on their first meeting was the first step to success. The first lesson she gave Dylan was in swordsmanship. She held back. Hiding your strength means you're wary of me. Liz had elven blood, so she could see spirits. Spirits fed on magical energy, and Liz had an endless supply. She graciously hosted the hungry spirits. Spirits understand gratitude. Maybe they'll help me later. Looking at the familiar yet alien imperial palace, sitting here, the heart-wrenching cries of her past life still echoed in her ears. Remembering the torment she endured for 400 years, Liz clenched her fists. I will destroy everything here. Just as she was about to rest, having closed her eyes, Liz sensed something was wrong. An assassin. With a backhand swipe, the person collapsed dead. In his final moments, he was incredulous. But they said, "You were just an honorary knight with a meaningless title." He didn't know that when she practiced with a sword, his ancestors were still suckling at their mother's breasts. An assassination attempt on her first day. It seemed the struggle for succession was fierce. Like Dylan, Liz had hidden her true strength. There was no other way. She had to use magic to dispose of the assassin. This was clearly an inside job. There were too many suspects. Dylan had never revealed his strength. That's how he survived this long. Now Liz was his teacher. The 13th prince learning swordsmanship was tantamount to declaring his intention to compete for the throne. The assassins would surely target Dylan too. Liz was still considering whether to help him. A scream echoed from the quiet corridor. It seemed he had already dealt with it and cleaned up the mess. For the next week, they both continued as usual. Neither mentioned that night. Liz inquired about Dylan's character from the servants. They all said he was a good person. He's quiet, upright, and not greedy. Also very naive. Naive like when he dealt with the assassin. Naive like all of you sleeping soundly that night. During sword practice, Dylan still pretended to be useless. 5 minutes of practice, 1 hour of rest. He's clearly strong, but insists on keeping up the act. That night, he probably guessed I encountered the same thing. I'm afraid he'll ask, so I prepare myself to answer him every day. But he hasn't asked. I can be sure he has no interest in me. Sorry, teacher, I'm so tired I can't breathe. He's quite good at pretending, Liz. Before I was reborn, Dylan manipulated the imperial family, only caring for Liz. Now, he shows a kind, cheerful, and naive side. Liz really wants to know why, so she squats in front of Dylan and asks, "Your Highness, do you plan to live like this forever?" In the eyes of others, Miss only became an honorary knight by relying on her family's influence. And even so, she became the 13th prince's instructor. They whisper behind her back. They're quite the pair. This superficial young lady. Robert especially loathes this kind of woman. After Liz asked Dylan that question last time, she clearly sensed his wariness. She's sure she's caught Dylan's attention. In the past few days, they've been observing each other. Liz clearly feels his gaze on her back. Swordsmanship alone isn't enough for Dylan. He also needs theory. The book she requested hasn't arrived, so she has to fetch it herself. Seeing Liz enter, Robert quickly covers something with a red cloth. Liz knows the book she wants is under the cloth. Imperial scholar Robert believes those without virtue are unworthy of reading the book. His prejudice and madness. Liz slaps him in the face with her knowledge, calmly reciting from the book. But Robert interrupts her. What's the use of memorizing it? Can you even understand it? Little does he know, Liz, as a companion to generations of emperors for 400 years, understands every emperor's interpretation of this book. Robert, his face burning with shame, roars, "Someone who won't live long. Even if you teach them this knowledge, it's useless." Liz, who was smiling a moment ago, changes her entire demeanor upon hearing this. Robert is intimidated by Liz's aura. I advise Count Robert to watch his words. Those who speak carelessly often meet an untimely end. Having said that, Liz takes the book she wants and leaves. Since it's our first theory lesson, let's take it easy. Dylan looks at the thick Imperial Scholar text. This is called easy. Liz knows this is child's play for Dylan. Dylan sighs and studies quietly. Taking advantage of this time, Liz secretly practices magic. Dylan should know about the library incident. Liz is prepared for him to ask about it at any time. The most skilled hunters often appear as prey. His gaze becomes subtle. "Teacher, I've finished reading." Dylan unexpectedly initiates conversation about the book. "Do you have any questions for me?" "Teacher, you seem to have never mentioned your family." Dylan's question catches Liz off guard. "Pretend I didn't ask. I have no questions." "Teacher, let's end the lesson here for today. Thank you for your hard work." "You worked hard too." Dylan's gaze wavers. Once the fish takes the bait, Liz won't let go. Back in her room, she thinks about Dylan's question. Family. Dylan is indifferent to his father. The only one he truly cared for was his mother, Consort Chi. Before her rebirth, Consort Chi was a thorn in the side of the other consorts. They constantly targeted and insulted her, even insulting the crown prince of Consort Chi's home country. The one who suffered the most was Consort Chi. At her funeral, only the fifth prince came. It was he who ascended the throne. She originally thought it was a coincidence, but now she realizes it wasn't. Everything stems from Consort Chi. Dylan was the empire's hidden ruler. A mysterious polymath appeared at that time, painting, composing, writing, even proficient in commerce, medicine, law, and other fields of knowledge. This mysterious person, Dylan, was only discovered after his death. The world lamented the genius's passing. Because of this, the forgotten Consort Chi began to attract attention. Consort Chi's last words to Dylan were to take care of his health and live a low-profile life. This became Dylan's life creed. What if at that time it was written, become the emperor no matter what, or if I can't have the empire, I'll destroy it. Liz was a patient person. She waited for the day Consort Chi would pass away. This autumn, the cause of death was poisoning. It said she suffered greatly. At that time, she would use this opportunity to gain Dylan's favor. At this time, the young master of Duke Ronan's house didn't receive a reply from the young lady. The second young master of the Ronan house felt he had been good to Liz. She was the only person in the family who didn't treat him like heir. He couldn't believe Liz hadn't replied, but he let it go. She would reply sooner or later. But his concern for Liz was only superficial, and she, a 400-year-old swordsmanship genius, was seen as a beautiful ornament who rose through the ranks using her looks. Liz decided to stop hiding her strength and challenge a ninth prince to a duel. Just now, the ninth prince visited, making it clear he came to see Liz. You are the disgrace of the Ronan family. You don't look like a knight. He completely ignored Dylan. I hear you're good at seduction. Are you even teaching properly? I'm much stronger than that fool. If you want to see me, I grant you an audience with the ninth prince. Hearing this, Liz was instantly enveloped by the shadows of her past life. She remembered those unbearable years, being treated as an object, trampled upon without any dignity. Liz was no longer merciful. Abandoning her usual gentle and polite demeanor, she challenged the ninth prince to a duel. The ninth prince's eyes were filled with contempt. A mere honorary knight, he didn't even need to fight her himself. He sent out his guard. The news immediately spread throughout the knights. Everyone was talking about the fight. Dylan, watching Liz, couldn't help but call out to her. Liz just smiled and told him she would be fine. The match began. Just when everyone thought her small frame wouldn't even be able to lift a sword, Liz easily lifted the 200-pound iron sword. The man hesitated, wondering if he should hold back, but still attacked fiercely. Liz didn't even flinch. She dodged easily. She couldn't help but taunt. Is this the strength of the so-called royal guard? Her sarcastic words completely enraged the man, almost driving him to kill. Liz easily dodged again, and in the process, snatched the man's hair tie. His loose hair enraged him to the extreme. His attack was filled with killing intent. Liz showed no mercy. With a few swift strikes, she left the man defenseless. She was truly angry. She thought that if even one emperor in her past life had shown her a shred of respect, that she wouldn't be this furious. They could hear Kayla's cries, but ignored them. This became a catharsis for Liz. The clean floor was now splattered with the man's blood. Liz pointed her sword at the man's throat. He finally knelt and surrendered. Liz's chilling gaze swept across the stage. The ninth prince beside her trembled all over. He looked at Liz as if she were a monster, immediately stammering an apology for his previous rudeness. Liz accepted his apology. From this moment on, she became famous. After everyone left, Dylan finally asked his first question, "Teacher, why do you think the way I live is so meaningless?" At this moment, Liz's heart pounded. He had finally asked this question. Understanding that this was the only chance to catch Dylan's attention, she couldn't say anything wrong. Thinking it over, she firmly said, "Because you and I are the same kind of people. That's why I empathize so much. I consider myself a confident person, and your highness has always been very confident in yourself as well. You believe you will definitely get everything you want, and this feeling of easily obtaining everything makes you feel bored instead. You start to wonder if the lives of ordinary people might be more interesting, so you hide your brilliance. Unfortunately, it's far less interesting than you imagined." These words struck Dylan's heart. An incredulous look appeared in his eyes. "Since you were young, you've never doubted that you would become the emperor. This matter doesn't require anyone else's approval. Liz gently leaned forward. Your Highness, you can remain wary of me, but you can also try to let down your guard. I think the latter is a good choice. Whichever you choose, I will fully accept it. Dylan didn't speak, but Liz knew that after today's events, Dylan's psychological defenses had been breached. When the girl decided to completely break with her family, her brother started to feel reluctant. He sent his sister a letter a month ago, but hadn't received a reply. He asked the messenger and learned that his sister had just glanced at it and thrown it back. This wasn't right. His sister used to be very clingy, but was disliked by their family. Shouldn't she have been excitedly grateful to receive a letter? He had been worried she would cling to him. Why wasn't it how he imagined? His muttering attracted his father. It seemed he wasn't happy. He had to find an excuse. When he went to eat, he couldn't help but ask his father, "Have you received any news about Liz?" Before he could finish, he was ruthlessly interrupted by the man. Why bring up such an unpleasant topic? He was about to get up, but then he saw the lilies commemorating his wife. He reminisced about his deceased wife, but he couldn't tolerate his still-living daughter. Whenever he saw her at the dining table, he would turn and leave, refusing to eat with her. Over time, Liz stopped coming to the dining room. Now, she had disappeared altogether. Watching his father leave, her brother lost his appetite. The servant's words kept echoing in his mind. How had Liz become a different person? Meanwhile, Liz was carefully dressing herself because she was going to meet Dylan's mother. Dylan only smiled like a child when he mentioned his mother. To win Dylan over, his mother, the 7th Imperial Consort, was a crucial link. Arriving at the 7th Imperial Consort's palace, the luxurious decorations showed Dylan's care. The woman lying in the sickbed was frail, but still retained her charm. She was a princess who had married into the kingdom. She exuded an air of elegance. Although this was Liz's first time meeting her, the thought that she was about to experience unbearable pain filled Liz with sadness. Only the Shilu herb could save her. But this herb was only available to the Emperor. Liz suddenly remembered that in her past life, the Emperor held a swordsmanship tournament every year. The champion could make one wish to the Emperor. Even requesting the moving castle is achievable. Liz decides to participate in the competition, win a championship, then requests the Shilu herb as a reward from the Emperor. Dylan is a grateful person. While thinking about this, the 7th Imperial Consort noticed Liz. Although nervous, Liz greeted her gracefully. The 7th Imperial Consort is a very kind person. She continuously thanked Liz for Dylan's instruction. Although an imperial consort, her words were gentle and her demeanor humble. Truly a good mother who respects teachers. Consort Chi's warmth reached Liz's heart. As autumn approached, Liz's mood became heavy. After returning, Liz had a nightmare. In her past life, as a cursed magic sword, no one could understand her. The Empire's actions against her. The belief in revenge sustained her until now. She wasn't wrong. Yet, she was the one blamed. Only upon waking did she realize she was crying, grieving over being blinded by revenge. Unable to control the nightmares, she must at least stay calm while awake. Now, Liz has a new worry. How can she conceal her identity to participate in the competition? Disguising herself as a man is the only way to be inconspicuous. Tying her hair up won't help. Just as she was about to cut her hair, the little spirits peeked out. Liz smiled and asked if they were hungry. They surrounded her. "We can help you." The next moment, the spirits cast their magic, transforming Liz into a handsome young man with brown hair and dark eyes. His voice was magnetic. Her hands became coarser. Liz hadn't expected the spirits to help at this time. Smiling, she thanked them for their great help. Since her previous life, Liz had never participated in a swordsmanship competition. The Duke valued his son's achievements more than his daughter's. So, Liz could only watch from afar. Tens of thousands of participants entered the swordsmanship tournament. The preliminaries officially began. This level of competition was a minor matter. Liz intentionally concealed her true strength and slowed her pace. She steadily advanced, ranking 85th. On the day of the qualifying round, she noticed the 9th prince was absent. Liz wasn't surprised. Only one person could do this. That is Dylan, who never yields what he possesses. Once obtained, he never lets go. After dueling with the 9th prince's guard, the 9th prince developed a fear of swords. Could Dylan have done this to him? The announcer's booming voice pulled Liz back from her thoughts. She froze. Because her opponent was her eldest brother, to save someone, she disguised herself as a handsome young man with brown hair and dark eyes. Fighting her way through, she reached the semifinals. Now, she faced her eldest brother, Arkin. He was also the Ronin family's only competitor. It was tragic. Their father saw her as a girl and disregarded her swordsmanship skills, no matter how impressive. She was more skilled than both her brothers, yet she could only hide in her room, envious. But now, she could easily defeat her brother, seeing through his every move. His attacks were stiff and predictable. If not for the tournament rules against killing, Arkin would have already died by her sword. Looking at his pierced armor, Arkin was filled with fear. He had used all his strength, yet hadn't landed a single blow. While struggling to understand his predicament, the referee announced the end of the match. Due to the draw, both advanced. But for Arkin, undefeated amongst the nobles, he had fallen from his pedestal. Liz, hidden away from the bustling evening festivities, leisurely sipped her tea. Unexpectedly, she looked up and saw Dylan. Why was he here? Just then, his gaze drifted over. Would he recognize her? However, Dylan only glanced from afar before disappearing into the crowd. Liz also took the opportunity to leave. The next day's semifinals. Arkin was swiftly defeated by Ka, who as soon as he entered the arena. Seeing this, Liz left midway through the match. Ultimately, Liz faced Ka, the one who defeated her elder brother. She recalled how, after his disappearance in her past life, her family abandoned him. Only this man, her fiancé in name only, searched for him for 5 years. Although she didn't understand why he searched for her, she still didn't want to hurt him. But the championship had to be hers. Unsurprisingly, she emerged as the victor. Everyone present was filled with excitement. Someone with no known identity had actually defeated all the renowned competitors. The Emperor, standing on the stage, asked Liz what she desired. Beautiful women, a prominent noble title, or perhaps a pardon token. Unexpectedly, the young man, in a voice only the Emperor could hear, asked for what he wanted, the Shilu herb. The Emperor hadn't expected such a simple request. He even offered Liz the position of his exclusive knight. This was an opportunity many would long for. But Liz refused. She only wanted a peaceful life. As the Emperor contemplated the idea that what he couldn't have should be destroyed, Liz was unafraid of him seeking her out again. Because she had returned to her female form, no one would be able to find her. That night, urgent cries echoed through the imperial palace. News arrived that Consort Chi's condition had worsened. Dylan's hurried footsteps faded into the distance. Meanwhile, Liz waited for the opportune moment to present the Shilu herb. Dylan had to witness his mother's suffering for it to be meaningful. Just as all the physicians had been mobilized but failed to find a remedy to alleviate the pain, and Dylan felt he was on the verge of collapse, Liz appeared with the Shilu herb. Holding it, Dylan understood. She had participated in the swordsmanship competition to obtain this. But why had she gone to such lengths to approach him, and why give him the Shilu herb? Before he could receive an answer, news arrived again that Consort Chi's condition had deteriorated. After taking the Shilu herb, Consort Chi finally found relief from her pain, though she was utterly exhausted. She inquired about the origin of the herb. Dylan truthfully told Consort Chi. In return, Consort Chi entrusted her final words to Liz. She entrusted her son to Liz's care. Instantly, Liz felt a heavy weight in her heart, a lump in her throat. In her previous life, while Dylan desperately searched for the Shilu herb, Consort Chi passed away. He hadn't been able to ease his mother's pain, nor bid her farewell. Guilt had tormented Dylan his entire life. Finally, Consort Chi passed away without regrets. At the funeral, there were only 2 figures. The mourners were pitifully few. Aside from the 5th prince, no one else attended. Liz seemed to understand the feelings Dylan carried while serving the 5th prince's ascension in her past life. Feeling the room a bit stuffy, Liz went outside for some fresh air. At that moment, the sky opened up with a torrential downpour. Well, a little rain wouldn't hurt. As she walked, she bumped into Dylan. He held Consort Chi's will in his hand. He handed it to her. Hesitantly, she opened it, surprised that the contents were different from her past life. Do what you want to do, no matter what it is. Live freely. Mother said this was written for both of us. I don't have anything I want to do yet. What about you, teacher? Liz felt her heart pounding in her chest. He had finally waited for this day. He knelt down on one knee. Please become my monarch. Allow me to become your guide. The Empire's first night. The rain is pouring down right now, but it feels terrifyingly close. Now, the monarch should place their hand on the knight's head to take the oath. But Dylan didn't want to treat his teacher that way. He suddenly knelt down on one knee. Taking her hand, he said, "Then please become mine. You're all I have now." Liz looked at his face. She couldn't tell if it was rain or tears. Dylan was now like a blank canvas, waiting for Liz to paint it. Consort Chi's funeral was over. Only Liz and Dylan remained in the hall. "Teacher, what do you want?" Dylan placed the choice of his destiny entirely in Liz's hands. "It's time to paint this blank canvas black. I want you to rule the Empire, then destroy it, trample it underfoot, and reduce it to ashes." Faced with this immoral request, Dylan's reply was, "As you wish." Afterwards, to conceal their strength, the two chose to train in the deep mountains. Looking at his teacher, sleeping while leaning against a tree, Dylan's mind was filled with a myriad of thoughts. He was afraid that his teacher would worry, so he pretended to have moved on from the pain of his mother's death and had long since taken off his black clothes. But his teacher still wore them. He gazed tenderly at the sleeping woman. Dylan thought to himself, "I really want to grow up quickly. Whatever my teacher wishes for, I will make it come true." Feng Ti, falling in love with another Feng Ti, had gone completely mad. Originally, the throne didn't matter to him. But now, to fulfill his teacher's wish, he could even dethrone his own father. Whatever his teacher said was right. After 4 years of cultivating support, Dylan successfully ascended to the position of Crown Prince. Liz, as the Crown Prince's teacher, became the Grand Tutor. Their status and position were completely different now. The funny thing was, everyone rushed to congratulate Duke Ronan, praising him for raising his daughter so well and even asking for his educational secrets. Every word that fell on the man's ears was undoubtedly a slap in the face. His least loved and most neglected daughter was now more capable than all of his sons. Liz watched the commotion for a while. Unable to stand it any longer, she slipped away to be alone. She had just sat down when her so-called family, led by her deadbeat father, came to find her. He demanded to know what tricks she had used to get involved with the Crown Prince. Liz replied that it had nothing to do with him. Her enraged father told her to keep a low profile in the future and not to disgrace the Ronan family. He even said he would be happy if she severed ties with them. Did he think Liz was still the little girl they could manipulate? She smiled faintly and said, "If you could remove me from the Ronan family register, I would be eternally grateful." The three men were instantly speechless. Her father thought Liz wanted to join another family, believing that leaving the Ronan family would be difficult for her. Liz, however, said, "I've never enjoyed any special treatment from the Ronan family. It would be much better elsewhere. Since this is a proposal beneficial to both parties, please remove me from the family register as soon as possible." Even after Liz left, the three men remained stunned. When Dylan found Liz, she was writing an application for removal from the family register. Dylan just glanced at it and didn't say much. "Teacher, you look beautiful today." His attention was entirely on her. Unconsciously, he reached out and gently touched her lips. Their relationship had undergone a subtle change. This feeling of losing control made Liz inexplicably nervous. That night, the two celebrated at a restaurant. Liz promised Dylan 3 wishes, vowing to fulfill them no matter what. "My first wish, teacher, is that if I ever act improperly towards you, you will forgive me." Liz thought, how improper could someone like Dylan, a true gentleman, be towards her? No problem. Dylan's second wish was for her to name his night order. These were the beggars Liz bought off the streets. She took them in and trained them to be spies. Because they were Liz's people, Dylan valued them highly. Let's call them shadows. No one could have imagined that this casually chosen name would one day shake the entire continent. And what about the third wish? Before she could finish, Dylan blushed. "I want to hear you sing." Liz felt that Dylan was acting strangely today. Still, she granted his wish. Her heavenly voice filled the air. A new chapter unfolds. Duke Ronan's mansion. Liz's deadbeat father couldn't believe she actually obtained the official application for leaving the family register, complete with the royal seal. The matter was now out of their hands. Her second older brother, realizing he had been too cold to his sister, thought he should try to mend her wounded heart. He had always wanted his family's love, after all. Her eldest brother, however, scoffed and said he could persuade Liz himself. The second brother recalled his childhood, when he told his mother how much he wanted a little sister. He had promised to protect her always. Now he felt incredibly guilty The eldest brother arrived at the imperial palace and was told that the grand tutor was in session and couldn't be disturbed. He barged in anyway. He wanted to see just how capable his little sister was teaching the crown prince. He observed the lesson. The eldest brother was stunned. Even in practice, such a high level of skill shouldn't be possible. Her astonishing talent and extreme prowess amazed him. He realized how wrong his previous assumptions had been. Being a grand tutor was a waste of her talent. She could be so much more, yet her family had clipped her wings. By the time Liz turned around, her eldest brother was gone. The second brother saw him return, dejected. He asked what had happened. The eldest brother recalled the swordsmanship competition 4 years ago. The man who won the championship. Perhaps Liz could also claim that glorious throne. What had he and his father done all these years? Liz realized she had been spending too much time with Dylan lately. She needed to keep some distance. It was time to find him a crown princess. The young lady from the Harleven dukedom seemed like the perfect candidate. Upon their first meeting, Mia seemed hostile towards Liz. She even gave Liz snapdragons, insinuating that her time with the crown prince was over and she should leave without being greedy. Her ambition was exactly what Liz needed. Since you also have the crown prince's best interests at heart, miss, thought then I can help you secure that position. Liz took Mia's information to Dylan. As she was presenting Mia's profile, Dylan suddenly paled, as if struck by a devastating blow. He asked again and again, "Do you really want me to marry another woman?" After receiving Liz's confirmation, his face darkened ominously. The next morning, Mia was waiting at Liz's door, crying and claiming she already had someone she loved. She had given her heart to him. "You're not fit to be the crown princess. Please let me go." She was completely different from the ambitious woman Liz had met yesterday. Liz said she wouldn't force anyone. She must have misjudged Mia. She suspected Dylan had something to do with this, but she felt it wasn't worth jeopardizing their trust over this. When she met with Dylan that afternoon, he apologized for his misjudgment of Mia, but Dylan brought up something else. He wanted Liz's promise that no matter what he did, she would stay by his side. Liz didn't understand what he was getting at until he took her hand and kissed her. "I will launch a rebellion this winter and seize the throne. I swear I will offer the world to you." A vow exchanged for a vow. Whether it would be destruction or rule depended solely on Liz's will. That night, Liz woke up from her dream in a cold sweat. He dreamt of his forbidden desires for his teacher, so ethereal yet so real. If only it were true. He desperately wanted to possess her completely, even if it meant being condemned by posterity, cursed, and resented. As long as Liz was in the first round, he was willing to become a complete tyrant. After being reborn and finally free from his original family, Arkin realized how much he had wronged his sister. After witnessing his sister's true strength, even someone as foolish as him could see her talent. He regretted all the wrong things he and his father had done over the years. Arkin dreamt of reading storybooks to his sister when they were young. He and his sister had indeed been close for a while. Back then, she had relied on him heavily. Then one day, he suddenly refused to let his sister near him, even when he saw her fall and scrape her knees. He didn't pay attention. He just looked away towards his older brother and father. He was too afraid. He feared that he too would be ostracized by the family if he was close to her. His sister thought she had done something wrong, and when she apologized, her brother coldly pushed her away. He only regretted what he had done to his sister when he woke up, but it was too late. The application had arrived too late. His sister was already gone. The Ronan family was about to hold a family meeting. Their deadbeat father believed that as the eldest son, Arkin should set an example for his younger siblings. Since he hadn't reported anything, could it be assumed that Liz's matter had been resolved? Could the application be considered void? But Arkin asked his father, "Have you cared about our sister all these years?" "Even a little. You should let go of Mother's death and treat Liz properly." These words completely exposed their father's hypocrisy. He angrily slapped Arkin. He told him he had no right to say these things, because he hadn't done any better. Yes, if their father was the culprit, then they were accomplices. Saying anything now was pointless. Arkin still wanted to reconcile with his sister. The Crown Prince's investiture ball was in a few days. It was also his sister's birthday. The two brothers discussed birthday presents. Rare treasures were too easy to buy and lacked sincerity. She liked to paint, so they decided to give her black roses. Little did they know, their self-righteous act almost killed Liz. The day the ball arrived, Liz and Dylan attended in formal attire. Everyone admired Liz's beauty. She was the center of attention from the moment she appeared. Consort Chi informed the emperor, who then sought Dylan's approval before proceeding. Liz felt that Dylan had been avoiding her recently. He would flinch if she touched him, even slightly. He also barely spoke to her. Lost in thought, Kahu extended an invitation to Liz. I wonder if I have the honor of this dance. According to etiquette, she couldn't refuse the first person who asked her to dance. As they danced, they became the focus of the ballroom. Everyone discussed how well-matched they were, their gazes filled with admiration. But Liz felt uneasy. A distant stare made her skin crawl. She hurriedly finished the dance with Kahu. Just as she breathed a sigh of relief, someone grabbed her waist. I need to talk to you. She was startled that Dylan had addressed her so directly. The noisy crowd began a murmur. Dylan led her to the balcony and apologized for touching her without permission and addressing her informally. This was the first time Dylan had acted like this, and Liz was a little surprised. She said that as the future emperor, he could address her by name at any time. But Dylan said he had always respected her and wouldn't dare treat her casually. Seeing his respectful demeanor, Liz smiled and said she forgave him. Dylan was almost blinded by intense possessiveness. This feeling was unfamiliar to him. Leaving behind a hasty goodnight, he hurried off, unaware that the woman he loved was about to face danger. Liz gazed at the night sky, sighing at the beautiful moon. She thought about the 400 years she had lived as Kayla. Her time living as a person who could speak and move was short. She had to constantly remind herself of her purpose in the imperial palace. Just as she turned to go back, an unpleasant voice called out from behind her, Liz, do you know your birthday is coming up? My birthday is the same day as my mother's death anniversary. Are you trying to say I'm a murderer? I've already severed ties with you. Saying that again is slandering the Grand Tutor. Her two good-for-nothing brothers hurriedly explained it was a misunderstanding. They were just there to celebrate her birthday and had brought a gift. Seeing Liz's continued coldness, the nervous brothers forcefully thrust a black rose into her arms. Afterward, they were completely immersed in self-satisfaction. But then they saw Liz coughing up blood, asking, "Are you trying to kill me?" The two brothers didn't understand what was happening. Liz considered whether to use her magic to force the poison out. She didn't want to collapse in front of people she didn't trust. If it were Dylan, she could entrust herself entirely to him. The regretful brothers wanted to ask for forgiveness, but they almost killed their sister. Liz was speechless with these two. When they were younger, she had collapsed after accidentally touching a black rose. Black roses were deadly to her. Seeing Dylan rushing towards her anxiously, Liz finally allowed herself to collapse. Because only Dylan could be trusted. Everyone present was in an uproar. Dylan guessed that his teacher was experiencing an allergic magic reflux. A severe case could be fatal. The two brothers tried to explain, but Dylan silenced them with a look. He had to save his teacher. He couldn't reveal his teacher's weakness to too many people. He simply said that his teacher was overworked and exhausted and needed a rest. He carried Liz to his own chambers. The only way to save her was to merge his magic with hers. No matter how painful the process, he had to be meticulous and cautious. He couldn't hurt her. He refused to let anyone else near. He chose to protect her himself. His teacher had entrusted her life to him. The two brothers, after returning home, learned from a servant who had once cared for Liz that black roses were extremely dangerous for her. And since Liz practiced swordsmanship, she was completely incompatible with black roses. The brothers blamed the servant for not telling them sooner. The reason the servant hadn't was because their father, the Duke, had forbidden it. After Liz's allergic reaction as a child, he had ordered the servants not to speak of it to anyone. Only the servants who cared for her felt sorry for her. It was because the one who killed their mother didn't have the right to cry out in pain. Unconscious, Liz dreamed again of the time she was made into a sword. She repeatedly asked why it had to be her. The Emperor's answer was that she was the most suitable candidate. She had to accept the reality of becoming the magic sword, Kayla. Elderly commoners had been experimented on before, but those experiments had failed. So they started experimenting on minors. She remembered the uproar in the Empire, how many nobles had disappeared, until one day they saw the young lady from the Ronin family. Her talent was exactly what they needed. It proved their choice was right. Liz became the only successful experiment. The Emperor used Kayla to take countless lives. For 400 years, she had been surrounded by this deep sense of guilt. A gentle voice shattered the darkness. Liz finally woke up. Listening to the chirping of birds outside the window, she felt much better. Looking at the young man beside her, Liz realized the gentle whispers weren't a hallucination. Seeing her awake, Dylan kept asking if she was uncomfortable anywhere. She had been unconscious for 3 days and 3 nights. Dylan had personally cared for her the entire time. Trusting him had indeed been the right choice. To repay him, Liz planned to give him a significant gift. She requested a half-month leave from Dylan to travel to the Lewin Mountains. This was the second time she had requested leave. He remembered the first time she took leave, she had sought the Shilu herb. What was her purpose in going to the Lewin Mountains this time? Regardless, he agreed to Liz's request without hesitation. Soon, Liz arrived at her destination. Because Dylan hadn't married a crown princess and thus had no shame of an outside wife, those who wanted to rebel needed Duke Kanan's support. Duke Kanan personally came out to greet her, puzzled about what the crown prince's right-hand woman was doing. What scheme was she planning, coming all this way? She even offered to play a few games with him. Whether it was roulette or poker, Kanan lost every round. Liz smiled, saying her luck had always been good. But only the strategist beside them recognized the astonishing intelligence of the woman before them. Kanan, however, didn't believe she had come for mere amusement. Rumor had it Duke Kanan was searching for a family heirloom. But the mountains were teeming with magical beasts, making them inaccessible to ordinary people. I want to make a wager with you. I'll help you find the heirloom, but in return, that the loser must pledge unconditional loyalty to the winner forever. Looking at the seemingly frail woman, Duke Kanan advised her not to take the risk. The magical beasts in the forest, which tens of thousands of people couldn't handle, she claimed she could deal with single-handedly. Liz said she only needed a half-month. Kanan watched from the window as Liz set off, believing she was going to her death. While everyone assumed she wouldn't return, Liz cut a path through the dangers, slaying beasts along the way. For her, dealing with these creatures was child's play. Even S-rank magical beasts were easily dealt with. Finally, she found the heirloom. At Duke Kanan's mansion, the steward hurriedly called for the Duke's return. The morning sun shone on Liz, making her appear radiant. Duke Kanan, do you remember our wager? You must honor it. Duke Kanan and all his knights knelt on one knee, facing Liz. He swore to follow the crown prince without hesitation, placing himself at her disposal. The oath ceremony concluded, and Liz wanted nothing more than to return to the palace. She wanted to give the proof of the oath to Dylan as repayment for his trust in her. At that moment, she longed to see him, unaware that he had also prepared a surprise for her. In a magnificent palace, Dylan, holding ribbons, suddenly heard the voice he had been yearning for. Hearing her call to him, he quickly turned to see Liz had returned. His gaze was gentle and tender. He had planned a surprise party for her the following day. He was overjoyed she returned a day early. Liz froze. Her birthday was also the anniversary of her mother's death. That day felt like a curse to her. Dylan guided her to a seat and removed her shoes. He wanted to wash away the fatigue of her journey with warm water and even rolled up his sleeves to massage her feet. 1,000 words converged into one sentence. Teacher, thank you for coming into this world. Thank you for reaching out to me. After the evening party, Liz expressed her gratitude for Dylan's gift. She loved it. It wouldn't be long before the rebellion. She would personally kill the emperor. Dylan then realized Liz had never addressed the emperor as Your Majesty. What secrets does the teacher hold? He doesn't want to pry. Even if he knew, what then? He's willing to do anything for her. This woman is a ladder. For revenge, he painstakingly lurked by the prince's side, taming him into a docile lamb. Unexpectedly, Dylan is even more unhinged than he is. Liz's original plan was to expose the emperor's crimes to the public, then send him to the guillotine, execute him personally. However, Dylan is increasingly deviating from her control. The day before yesterday was Consort Chi's death anniversary. Liz recalled Consort Chi's dying wish, entrusting Dylan to her. The time is coming. She cannot be swayed by anyone. Feelings are too extravagant for her. She cannot forget the 400 years of hatred and rage. Dylan is about to transform from a pure youth into a usurping tyrant. That night, they formulated a battle plan. The first step is to seize the royal family's secret library. It can provide ample justification for this uprising. If the uprising fails, there's only one way out: death. For the teacher's wishes, he can charge forward without hesitation. The great battle is imminent. Dylan, masked, leads his knights into the imperial palace. After eliminating the royal family, he heads straight for the secret library as planned. Meanwhile, Liz is outside, bringing Duke Kanan's army to support Dylan. This time, he will leave no one alive in the Imperial City. Inside the underground library, Dylan flips through the records documenting the royal family's crimes. It details all sorts of illegal activities. This royal family should have been dismantled long ago. On another bookshelf in the library, there's a blue book with a sword emblem. Dylan sees the living sword experiment plan. For the experiment, they kidnapped minors. Even unborn children are on the list. To create a sword with self-awareness, Eshlight. Dylan remembers the teacher's lesson. Anyone who swallows a fragment of Eshlight will slowly transform into a monster. Although there's only one successful case. Recalling the teacher's subtle expression during the lesson, Dylan can't imagine. As he flips through the list of experimental candidates, the name of Duke Ronan's eldest daughter appears. Dylan finally understands. He understands why the teacher harbors such deep animosity towards the royal family. On this restless night, a messenger pigeon flies through the sky, delivering a letter to Duke Ronan's mansion. The message reads, "Martial law. Emergency." Zago hurriedly informs his father that the crown prince is planning a rebellion. The Duke immediately thinks of Liz. He panics. If the crown prince's tutor fails in her rebellion, his daughter will also face certain death. Liz's army reports that Duke Ronan's forces are approaching. Liz orders her knights to prepare their bows and arrows. No one will be allowed to stop her. Just as she's about to fire, she sees the army carrying red flags. Could they be joining the rebellion? The Duke leads the charge, declaring House Ronan's support for the Grand Tutor. But Liz doesn't need it at all. To protect himself, the Emperor has released 1,000 monsters. Little does he know, these are mere trifles to Liz. She intends to handle them alone. Her father anxiously objects. Isn't this suicide? Liz dismounts her warhorse. With a single, casual swing of her sword, she dispatches a monster. Like a goddess of war, she addresses her soldiers. Retreat is not in my vocabulary. I'll deal with the monsters. You go and stop the Emperor's reinforcements. These are my orders. Execute them immediately. The knights' morale surged. Dylan had just left the Imperial Library when he was surrounded by the Emperor's knights. Prepared for a bloodbath, Dylan easily dispatched the knights. The scene was ablaze. Dylan ordered his knights to secure the library. Liz had also finished her battle. Victory signals arrived from all directions. Standing on high ground, she felt an unprecedented thrill. This day had finally arrived. She had waited so long for this moment. The careful planning of the past few years had become reality. She thought of Consort Shi. She remembered Dylan, untamed and innocent. The wind ruffled his hair. She reminded herself that Dylan was merely her pawn. She couldn't afford to be soft. At this moment, she was like an angel of death in the night, a chilling, unreal apparition. Now, all she needed was for Dylan to deliver the Emperor, and she could finally have her revenge. But hours passed, and there was still no news. Liz's expression darkened. She leaped onto her horse and galloped towards the Imperial Palace. The vast hall was empty, save for the scattered corpses of nobles outside. A strong sense of unease washed over her. Had Dylan already killed the Emperor, she wouldn't allow her years of effort to be wasted. At the rear of the palace, Dylan cornered the Emperor. He now understood Liz's motive for approaching him. It was nothing more than to take revenge on the Emperor herself. If Liz succeeded, his existence would be meaningless. Even if Liz resented him, it didn't matter. He would kill the Emperor himself. He raised his sword, then hesitated. He thought a more interesting method than simply killing him. When Liz arrived at the palace, she assumed Dylan had killed the Emperor. She had explicitly stated that she wanted to do it herself. But Dylan said the Emperor was still alive. Liz asked him what he had done to the Emperor. "Just as the Emperor did to you," Dylan replied. "I condemned him to hell. I made him consume Eshlight fragments. He won't die no matter what. You can do whatever you want to him, torture him as you please. If you wish, you can even forge him into a sword. He will suffer for all eternity. Teacher, this is the perfect gift for you. Shouldn't you praise me?" Liz had always wanted to take revenge on the Emperor through legitimate means. Forging a person into a sword, such an act that transcended human limits, was truly abhorrent. Dylan had completely lost control. Fear crept into Liz's heart. She wanted to flee, but then she thought Dylan had perfectly destroyed the royal family. Wasn't this the outcome she had always desired? Liz caressed Dylan's face and praised him, saying he had done exceptionally well. Dylan's uprising was successful. The situation quickly came under control. But Liz wasn't as happy as she had imagined. Things had spiraled beyond her control. Gazing at the water's surface, Liz saw spirits appear beside the bath. She asked the spirits if they would help her if she decided to run away. The spirits swirled in the air. "Kind one," they said, "we will always be on your side, helping you. Being cruel is momentarily satisfying, but chasing after a girl can lead to a fiery demise." After Dylan ascended the throne, the Ronan family became the object of everyone's flattery. But no one knew that Liz had already severed ties with her family. Her father still held out hope for his daughter, perhaps fearing the consequences if the rebellion failed. He had filed a petition to protect the family from implication. But her jerk of an older brother told her father to wake up. Liz didn't want to see her family. That's why she became the 13th prince's tutor. She used to try so hard to please her brother. But Zago told her not to waste her energy. He would never see her as a sister. Looking back, Zago regretted it deeply. They had countless opportunities to make amends, but they all missed them. Liz would never forgive him. Now, he could only hope that time would heal his sister's wounds. Meanwhile, Liz was disturbed by Dylan's changes. Ultimately, he had grown too fast. Then a maid announced that Kahu requested an audience. He was the first to congratulate Dylan on becoming the imperial tutor. Kahu could keenly perceive the passage of time. Liz suspected he might also be someone who had traveled back in time. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, Kahu took his leave. Actually, Liz should have had a celebratory drink with Dylan yesterday. She felt a little bad about not going, so she decided to dress up nicely, because this was her and Dylan's first dinner with their new statuses. But in fact, Dylan also knew some of Liz's movements. The Black Knights reported the Imperial Tutor's meeting and conversation with Kahu. It was that Kahu again. He had heard about the near engagement between him and his teacher before. Dylan clearly felt a sense of crisis. While waiting for Liz to arrive, Dylan didn't understand why he suddenly felt so nervous. As the footsteps grew closer, Liz greeted, "Greetings, son of the Empire." The pure white dress made her even more beautiful. Dylan blushed. Just drinking would be a bit boring. Liz suggested they play a truth or dare game. If the person being questioned couldn't answer, they lost. The loser had to grant the winner a wish. Dylan asked first, "What are the Eschlite fragments?" Liz didn't expect Dylan to ask this. It made her feel suffocated. However, Liz still answered his question. "They are the root of the mushrooms. They are corpses tainted by the evil god." Liz asked, "Your Majesty, what do you think of the people who consumed the fragments?" Dylan thought they were worthless. He asked Liz if she was hiding something. Liz replied, "No. After all, who would have thought about time travel?" "Your Majesty, do you have someone you love?" Dylan didn't deny it. "I've loved that person for a long time." As far as Liz knew, the only person of the opposite sex who had been around Dylan for a long time was herself. Her probing only made her more confused. "What about you, teacher? Do you?" Hearing his question, Liz thought of Kahu. She knew clearly it wasn't love. She couldn't forget that during the days she was missing, only Kahu had looked for her. She was grateful and wanted to protect this sincere feeling. So she firmly answered no. Then she asked her last question, "Can I know who the person your Majesty loves is?" Dylan panicked. His intuition told him that once his teacher knew his feelings, he would be abandoned. So Dylan chose to forfeit. But even though he pretended to be calm, he couldn't hide his nervousness. Liz's suspicions were confirmed. It seemed she needed to revise her plans. Meanwhile, Red Hair received an assassination request. The client offered triple the price for the Imperial Tutor's life. Red Hair flatly refused. That was the woman who single-handedly fought 1,000 monsters. Assassinating her was suicide. In fact, Red Hair had once tried to assassinate Liz when she was still a tutor. He was instantly defeated. He knew her strength all too well. He had even begun to admire Liz. He warned the other members of his group, not just the Imperial Tutor, avoid everyone from the Ronan family from now on. Even though Liz had left the family, they were still blood relatives. If they offended the Ronan family, they might face her revenge. It's terrifying just thinking about it. Besides, he doesn't want Liz to hate him. Liz woke up early in the morning, recalling yesterday's events. She was certain that the person Dylan loved was her. Now, she had to adjust her plans based on Dylan's changing feelings. Preparations for moving to the Emperor's quarters were complete. In principle, the teacher and student should live in the same palace. Liz hadn't expected, however, that Dylan would give her the Lilac Room. This was reputedly the safest place in the Imperial Palace, equivalent to the human heart. It was originally the Emperor's room. This made Liz feel a little lost. It was almost time for swordsmanship class. But Liz decided to change the teaching method. She coated all the swords with deadly poison. She wanted to have a life-or-death Frujan Yan Shi with Dylan. But Dylan understood this was Liz testing him. If he didn't love her, he would fight with all his might. But he couldn't bring himself to hurt his teacher. In a moment of distraction, Liz's sword was already at his throat. "Your Highness, please focus. The result is already clear." Liz smiled and suggested they take a break before resuming the lesson. But after turning around, her expression instantly became incredibly serious. The next day, at the court meeting, the news that the remnants of the Wasteland forces were planning to regain power and were colluding with the underworld made Liz think that she might be able to find clues about Kayla. She volunteered, "Leave this matter to me." Everyone's understanding of Liz was that His Majesty's teacher's true strength was unknown. Just as someone was about to object, they were silenced by a single look from Liz. They didn't dare to speak. This matter was rather dangerous and required someone to assist. Kaho stood up and offered to help the Grand Tutor. Dylan trusted his teacher's decision and hoped Kaho would assist her well. After entering the underworld's territory, they were surrounded by an eerie atmosphere. From time to time, various monsters appeared to obstruct them, but Liz easily dealt with them. After witnessing her strength, Kaho was inevitably shocked. He recalled the Liz in his memory, a noble who merely longed for her family's love. But the young lady before him was terrifyingly strong. What kind of person was she? After fighting for most of the day, Kahu invited Liz to his home to rest. In order to observe Kahu up close and determine if he, like herself, was a time traveler, Liz accepted his invitation. Upon arriving at Kahu's home, Liz immediately wrote a message for her winged messenger to deliver to His Majesty. To improve work efficiency, she would stay at Kaho's house for the night. After the winged messenger delivered the message, a certain person's face darkened upon seeing it. Was his teacher testing him, or did she truly have feelings for Kaho? Dylan could no longer remain calm. He was consumed by a frantic desire to possess his teacher completely. Soon, the 3-day siege successfully concluded. As soon as Liz returned to the Imperial Palace, Dylan rushed to see her. Seeing his teacher wearing clothes he'd never seen before, he guessed it was a gift from Kaho. He wanted to tear the clothes to shreds, but he could only clench his hands, struggling to control his extreme jealousy and possessiveness. He smiled and asked how his teacher had been these past few days. Upon hearing her say she'd been happy, Dylan asked, "Teacher, do you like Kaho?" Liz knew he was testing her. If she said she liked Kaho, perhaps Dylan would give up. "Yes, Your Majesty. I like her." Dylan smiled, saying it was a good thing, but his grip on her hand noticeably tightened. It was autumn, yet he felt the heat of summer around him. The Emperor prepared a celebratory ball for Liz and Kaho. Liz, in a white gauze gown, arrived arm in arm with Kaho. Kaho felt a little uncomfortable and excused himself to get some food. As soon as he left, Dylan approached Liz. "Teacher, I've come to reclaim the first dance that was stolen from me." Dylan was referring to his investiture as Crown Prince. At that ball, she had her first dance with Kaho. Liz felt like she had fallen into a trap, but she still agreed to Dylan's invitation. The two on the dance floor became the center of attention. Everyone joked that it wasn't just dancing, it was art. Only Kaho watched all this in surprise. A few days ago, the tailor shop he had trusted for over 10 years suddenly refused to make his formal wear. And now, the Emperor's tailcoat was identical to the one he had originally commissioned. A crazy thought popped into his head. He needed to verify it. Kahu waited until they finished dancing and then approached the Emperor. "Your Majesty, if I may, I wish to marry the Grand Tutor. After all, we are of marriageable age." Dylan replied that as long as the Grand Tutor had no objections, he would give his blessing. However, the slight clenching of his fist betrayed his true feelings. As expected, His Majesty liked the Grand Tutor. Looking closely, he and Liz really did resemble each other. Both surveyed everyone with cold eyes. The next second, however, he heard Dylan's warning. "As a servant, casually testing your master. Don't you think that's foolish? I don't want this to happen again." Kaho's intentions were completely exposed. He finally realized his mistake. When he wanted to make amends, it was already too late. The child who longed for family affection remained forever 400 years in the past. When Kahu visited the Ronin family to inquire about Liz's preferences, her brothers realized they didn't know much about their sister. "She seems to hate flowers. I remember my sister always being busy." But Kahu remembered Liz's happy expression when she smelled flowers. He was surprised. Is this all you remember about Liz? Are you really Liz's family? Koho's words shamed the two brothers into silence. They realized they truly knew nothing about their sister. One of the brothers drunkenly confronted his wife. When you gave birth to our son, you almost died. Were you in pain? Were you afraid? Did you hate him? He desperately wanted to get the answers he sought from his wife. As if his wife said she hated him, it would prove he hadn't done anything wrong all these years. His wife slapped him hard. She fought back tears, unable to believe these words came from her husband. For her child, she didn't even care about her own life. Don't you understand as a father? On the day our mother gave birth, he saw with his own eyes how our mother would rather sacrifice herself than let anything happen to our sister. If our mother knew what happened after she was gone, how heartbroken she would be to see how her family treated her daughter. Outside the door, their father overheard these words. He remembered the meaning behind the name he gave his daughter. In the ancient language, it meant happiness. And what had he done for his daughter? But Liz now no longer needed these false relationships. She was the grand tutor, second only to the emperor. She was the genius who won the swordsmanship tournament. She was the woman even the emperor admired. To fulfill her teacher's wish, she would destroy the empire. Dylan plans to start a war soon. Liz didn't expect him to move so quickly. With the new Dylan I on the throne, the empire's economy and politics have reached their peak. Even if war breaks out, the citizens will rise up to pledge their loyalty. But they don't know that only defeat and death await them. The new emperor's war plans. The day is finally coming. Liz couldn't hide her excitement as she praised him. You truly are exceptional, teacher. This heartfelt praise ignited a fire within Dylan. He could no longer restrain himself. He desperately wanted to confess his feelings. With such a look in his eyes, he said, "Teacher, I love you. Teacher, you must understand my feelings, right?" But Liz chose to play dumb. "Your Majesty." She deflected his confession, turning it into something unrelated to romantic love. But this time, Dylan wasn't going to let it go. He led Liz to the back garden. "Teacher, can I ask you something? What exactly is Kayla?" Liz hadn't expected Dylan to mention Kayla. "Your Majesty, do you know what happens when someone consumes a fragment of Eshlight? The previous emperor, imprisoned underground, is a prime example. Ordinary people can't withstand it and die. Those who barely survive become sentient metal. That's Kayla." He knew Liz was hiding something from him, but he believed everything she said. "Teacher, I love you." Not the love of a student for a teacher, but the love a man has for a woman he desires. Dylan's bold and explicit confession, filled with burning passion, seemed to melt the entire winter. Liz didn't reply. Back in her room, she threw herself into the bathtub to cool down. No matter what, she wouldn't give up on her revenge. That afternoon, however, he sent her a gift, a portrait of her. She had seen this painting in her past life as Kayla, but the subject then was the 7th imperial consort. Anyone could see the artist's love for the subject. Liz had the painting hung above the piano. Just then, Dylan arrived for her piano lesson. Seeing the letters from Liz's suitors on the table, he couldn't hide his jealousy. He wanted to see who would dare to court a woman pursued by the emperor. The servant girl standing nearby was caught off guard by the sudden display of affection. He wanted everyone to know he loved this woman. During the lesson, he had lychees brought in, her favorite fruit. When she was young, no matter how much she loved them, she never got any. She hadn't had one since she grew up. How did Dylan know she loved them? Memories of being neglected were warmed by Dylan's gesture. The bitter memories associated with the fruit transformed into something cherished. At this moment, Liz seemed to understand. He truly loved her. News of the emperor's open pursuit of the imperial tutor spread like wildfire. Kahu, though aware of the emperor's affection for Liz, found it unsettling. He'd known for a while, but why did it still bother him? He was so distracted while practicing his swordsmanship that he lost his grip. He wondered if he, too, had fallen for her. He sought out Liz and pleaded with her not to get too close to the emperor. Being together is too dangerous for us. Kahu, Liz's fiancé in her previous life, had been reborn into this era with his memories. He hadn't expected someone else to capture Liz's heart. Liz understood. He was confessing his feelings under the guise of a warning, but she didn't intend to heed his words. For her, only Dylan was her most precious person. Only by his side could she be truly carefree. Dylan prepared the ice shot courtyard for Liz. He had his people preserve it with magic, an ice crystal spell that never melted. Arm in arm, they continued to plot their revenge. Liz was wary of love, even willing to use Dylan. But he didn't care, saying it didn't matter. At that moment, Liz's guard dropped. Dylan bent down and saw the Imperial Cup. As he knelt, he remembered. Only Dylan had treated her with respect from the beginning. He was the first person in her life to acknowledge her. Liz unconsciously hooked her finger under his chin and kissed him impulsively. The moment their lips touched, Dylan froze for a second. He quickly took the lead. Her rebirth was for revenge. But Dylan was willing to be with her, so why not fall in love together? He knew Liz wasn't entirely resolute. It didn't matter. He was confident he could fill the cracks in her heart. He ordered Liz to come to his bedchamber the next evening to watch the fireworks. Liz knew exactly what that meant. "I'll be waiting for you." He had finally won the woman he had loved for so many years. When Dylan suggested they spend the night together, Liz didn't want to refuse. Back in her room, she saw the sprites again. They asked if she needed help with her first night with Dylan. Sprinkling sprite dust would make it a wonderful experience. But Liz refused. She didn't want to rely on external forces to advance her relationship with Dylan. She wanted to experience and confirm it with her truest self. The following night, Liz arrived as promised. As the fireworks exploded, Dylan spoke of how he felt when he first met Liz. "It felt like destiny, like you were always meant to be mine. You coming here tonight means you agree. If you regret it, we can stop at any time." Liz said she didn't regret it. At that moment, they truly belonged to each other. When Liz opened her eyes, Dylan was already awake. He had been watching her for a long time. Dylan held her hand tightly and kissed it gently. It was the first time he had said her name, Liz. "What are we now?" According to palace etiquette, the emperor couldn't have a lover. Women in the harem were either empresses or concubines. But that doesn't apply to us. We are lovers. Hearing this, he was extremely pleased. He couldn't wait to announce their relationship. That way, no one else would pursue Liz, while he was still reveling in love. Liz hadn't forgotten her original purpose, revenge, but this wasn't so bad either. The love affair between the Grand Tutor and the Emperor was the talk of the capital. Most people offered their blessings, but Kaho was distressed, so it had come to this. If the Emperor wanted to make Liz his empress, he would have already announced it. Why call her his lover? Etiquette didn't matter to either of them. Laws and institutions couldn't constrain the Emperor. If he wasn't a tyrant, then what was he? And in this time of peace, he'd heard the army was undergoing intense training. Kaho couldn't understand Liz's motives. Thinking of Liz, he felt a pang of heartache. Now that their relationship was confirmed, even during training, they could be openly affectionate. A gentle and handsome younger lover. No one could resist. Liz couldn't help but kiss him. They began their shameless love life. For their first date, they went to the opera and had a delicious lunch. Like any ordinary couple, they strolled through the forest as the sun set. Dylan had so many things he wanted to do and memories to share with Liz. He even started to feel anxious, thinking that if he didn't hurry, he might never have another chance. Perhaps noticing Dylan's unease, Liz gently comforted him. "Your Majesty, I'm right here. I won't leave." That night, Liz was still reminiscing about their date, feeling both happy and excited. Then she noticed a patterned envelope beside her vanity mirror. She thought of the blonde man. As long as she tore open the envelope, he would appear immediately. Did the magic tower have new information? The moment the envelope was torn open, the blonde man appeared in the room. Upon seeing Liz, he began his fervent recruitment pitch again, hoping she would join their organization. Liz, however, was only concerned with what information he could provide. The man had no choice but to get down to business. It turned out that the true mastermind behind Kayla was the magic tower. They wanted to forge those who had ingested Eshlight shards into a sword, to create a god with human hands. This world actually has two gods. One is Eshlight, and the other is the evil god. The evil god was originally a conglomeration of magic. Liz couldn't believe it. The person the magic tower had been searching for was her. The only person who had ingested an Eshlight shard and become one with it. She would never forget the joy and greed in their eyes back then. The magic tower created Kayla as a vessel for the evil god to descend. Liz gestured for the blonde man to continue. He believed the Kayla project hadn't been successful yet. The magic tower's goal hadn't been achieved. Theoretically, the evil god descended upon Kayla, but in terms of magical structure, the dominant power still resided with the body's owner. The evil god would be gradually absorbed by the body's owner, eventually becoming the true evil god. Although your information is interesting, I still won't join your organization. The Magic Tower still didn't know that Liz, this future success story, had been reborn. Liz realized with horror that she seemed to be the evil god. The next day, Liz searched through every book in the library, but couldn't find any information about the evil god. the redhead delivered an information card. To figure out why only Kayla could be used to create the evil god, Liz tore open the card. The blonde man appeared again. He had new information. He told her that out of jealousy, the evil god shattered the main god, Eshlight, into countless pieces. The characteristic of these shards is that every few centuries, the purest and highest grade shard would be born in human form. Their defining trait is an undeniable talent. Liz realized this was describing Dylan. The blonde man, however, mistakenly believed Liz was the Eshlight shard. After all, at the age of 13, she had already demonstrated sufficient teaching ability to become the prince's tutor, and had managed to nurture the unremarkable 13-year-old prince into a promising emperor. That's why he so desperately wanted her to join their organization. And the evil god's characteristic is a murderous intent towards Eshlight. The blonde man said he was there to protect the true Eshlight shard, which he believed was Liz. He was unaware that Liz was Kayla. Only Liz knew that if she were the evil god, she would eventually kill Dylan. That night, Dylan whispered her name in her ear, but Liz couldn't sleep. She had considered whether destroying the Empire with Dylan would bring her true happiness. But now those things seemed ephemeral. To prevent Dylan's death, Liz could only choose to leave him. Even without him, she could live well. She never imagined that the pawn she had nurtured would be an Eshlight shard, and that she, as the evil god, would be unable to suppress her murderous intent and kill him. To keep Dylan from dying, Liz had no choice but to leave him. She found a blonde man and agreed to join the organization. They agreed on a time for him to pick her up, as she still had other matters to attend to. Liz went to the underground library and burned all the books about Project Kayla. 400 years ago, she had been forged into a demonic sword, suffering immense pain before being reborn. She had groomed Dylan into an emperor. Those past events were like ashes in her hands, gradually fading away. Liz suddenly remembered Kaho. He still remembered things from before his rebirth. She had to see him. Kaho didn't understand why Liz was looking for him. Unexpectedly, she asked him point blank if he remembered anything about the rebirth. Kaho nodded, saying he only remembered searching for her. He didn't remember anything after that. Liz felt that he probably wasn't lying. Thankfully, even now, he didn't know that he was Kayla. On the way back, the beautiful sky made her long to see Dylan. Under the setting sun, she walked with Dylan. Unless something unexpected happened, this would be their last time together. Dylan had to attend to state affairs. Although reluctant, they would see each other again tomorrow. Dylan smiled and left, completely unaware of the reluctance in Liz's eyes. At night, Liz appeared at the underground prison, cloaked in black. She pushed open the cell door. Inside was the deposed Dietrich I. Dietrich I was still muttering curses to himself, clearly insane. But he recognized Liz at a glance. He even knew about her being forged into a demonic sword. He asked Liz how she still maintained her human form. "Didn't I already forge you into a sword?" It seemed that after the former emperor was fed the Eshlight shard, his memory was also incomplete. Liz didn't want to waste any more time with him. "Listen, Dietrich I, your empire has fallen. Fire has spread across the land. Your countless imperial subjects have all been reduced to ashes. I'm glad you've recovered your memories." As the man wailed in despair, "Impossible," Liz grabbed him. With a single stroke, she finished off the man who had dragged her into the abyss. Liz finally avenged the hatred of 400 years. She set fire to everything there. She should have done this a long time ago. Standing in the raging fire, Liz thought only of Dylan. His blood-soaked reign actually had nothing to do with Dylan. It was she who had twisted him, the once righteous man. Now she should leave this place. Spring was coming. She only hoped that Dylan could live a good life. At dawn, the blonde man and his organization arrived as promised. Liz looked back at the palace one last time. She had always wanted to tame Dylan, to make him devoted to her. But recalling their sweet past, it was she, the mage, who had been tamed. Liz disappeared completely into the magic circle. An attendant reported a fire in the dungeon. The imperial tutor was also missing. The guards and prisoners were unharmed, but only the former emperor was dead. Dylan looked at the dagger on the ground, remembering that it was Liz's. She had personally killed the man who had caused her so much trauma. The shock was considerable for him. He told her to leave for a while to compose herself. She would be back soon. With the arrival of spring, Dylan returned triumphantly from a victorious battle. He thought his teacher should be back by now to celebrate with him. But when he opened the door, he was met with emptiness. It didn't matter. She should be back by summer. He instructed the maids to prepare Liz's summer dresses. Autumn arrived, then winter. Dylan ordered the maids to discard all the out-of-season dresses. Prepare the winter dresses. It will be cold when Liz returns. And so, Dylan waited 3 years after his lover left. He went mad. The once gentle, puppy-like man completely darkened. That woman who had schemed to get close to him after taming him abandoned him. He swore to find her at any cost, even if it meant preserving her like a specimen and keeping her locked away. The first round, he was very young. The endless suspicion and infighting in the palace tired him. He felt everything was meaningless. He would always fiddle with the chessboard, playing the game of which of the 49 members would die first. But his mother taught him, you cannot kill, because you are not without choices. Although he didn't quite understand why, he listened to his mother. From that day on, he sheathed his sharpness and became the unassuming emperor, until a girl named Liz appeared. He knew from the first meeting that she had an ulterior motive. He didn't understand why. If she wanted to rise to prominence, she would choose such a complicated method. Why did she have to approach him? Unexpectedly, he became attracted to her as they spent more time together. He wanted to possess this woman. A deep yearning caused him to sink into the quagmire named Liz. Seeing other men approach her, Dylan wanted to chop off their hands. But when facing Liz, he instantly retracted his frightening demeanor and transformed back into the gentle, puppy-like man. Indeed, Dylan had always been good at disguising himself, but now she had disappeared. All those promises about never leaving, about always staying by his side, turned out to be jokes. In the 3rd year of Dylan's reign, the former youth had grown up. Unknowingly, he had become a tyrant. Now, he would mobilize all manpower and resources to find that woman. Whatever you want, even if it means resorting to unscrupulous methods, you must achieve your goal. Liz, that's what you taught me. So I will capture you and bring you back. Liz, your freedom is over. Liz, who had been gone for 3 years, had become the leader of the organization with her overwhelmingly superior strength. When Liz first joined, many people didn't accept her. But one day, she single-handedly defeated all the knights in the organization. From then on, everyone supported her unconditionally. The facts proved that Liz was indeed qualified. Under her leadership, the Moda branch was eradicated. She became the Death Rider, the most feared by the Moda. Regrettably, the main branch always escaped. Unknowingly, 3 years had passed. Because her mind was focused on pursuing Moda, she rarely thought of Dylan. And Dylan hadn't sent anyone to follow or monitor her. Perhaps he had forgotten her. Wasn't this the outcome she wanted? Liz was still lost in thought when the door opened. Urgent report. Dylan intends to use the funds allocated for the Royal Expo to support Moda's research. Liz heard that name again after 3 years. Liz hadn't expected him to be involved with Moda. She didn't understand why the royalty, who had previously stayed out of the conflict between Moda and the organization, would suddenly intervene. If this continued, the tragedy of Project Kayla would repeat itself. Once Moda gained royal support, they would make a comeback. Project Kayla. Moda's high command would definitely appear. Liz planned to use this perfect opportunity. Eliminate Moda. It's risky, but it's worth a try. Down in the desolate underground, Dylan couldn't understand why Liz only looked at Heilig's-related technology. He felt enraged by everything about Project Kayla, filled with a desire for revenge, as if the Kayla project had already succeeded. He almost burned all the Kayla project files, but then thought better of it. None of it mattered anymore. Nothing was important. Liz's departure had driven him mad. Now, all he wanted was to find her. Everything is ready. He must capture her, no matter the cost. After her organization arrived at the destination, they discovered the entire royal knights were present, not to protect Modi or the emperor. When Liz was surrounded by the royal knights, she realized Dylan's target had been her all along. He had calculated correctly. Liz wouldn't fight against her former subordinates. She could only surrender. One by one, the members of her organization fell. Then Dylan appeared. "You haven't changed a bit, Liz," he said. Dylan gripped her chin. "To completely possess you, I've come for you now." Her former lover had reappeared. Liz felt a sense of unfamiliarity. She had left the man she loved 3 years ago. Finally captured, the Dylan before her was a stranger, frightening her. His former gentleness and chivalry were gone, replaced by coldness and resentment. His touch was no longer gentle. He repeatedly asked why she left. Seeing Liz's silence, he said, "Fine, it doesn't matter. I've caught you. From now on, you must stay by my side. The members of your organization are in my hands, Deli, Anklos, Wendy, and Goldie. If you want, you can kill everyone and escape. It depends on whether you're willing to sacrifice these precious friends." Liz had never considered her team as friends. But after 3 years of shared life and death experiences, she even remembered their names. She couldn't let them die because of her. Seeing Liz's silence, Dylan pulled her into an embrace. Once I've decided, I won't give you another chance to change your mind. It was then that Liz realized the principled young man she once knew was gone. Your Majesty, you've changed. Of course, you've been gone all this time. Did you think I should stay the same? Until when? Did you think I shouldn't change at all? Wasn't it you who turned me into this? Liz remained silent, speechless. Yes, it was she who had taught him to be tyrannical. Who else could she blame? But how can the true fragments of a Heilig exude such a dark aura? Dylan ordered the imprisonment of everyone in Liz's organization. Although I haven't killed them immediately, don't think you can relax, Liz. You know what I'm capable of. Liz anxiously pleaded with him, but Dylan didn't want to hear it. Liz, how I treat them depends entirely on you. From now on, stay by my side. Your eyes can only have me. Dylan arranged for Liz to stay in a nearby hotel. He also assigned knights to guard her closely. She needed to get out to assess the situation, but the knights stopped her. Your Majesty's orders. You cannot move freely. Liz was about to force her way out, but Dylan entered. Liz quickly asked where her companions were being held. A smirk played on Dylan's lips. How could you leave me and worry about others? Dylan gently caressed her face. Liz finally understood. The Dylan I once loved. He's completely changed. Right now, I just have to go along with his thinking and not provoke him. Dylan slowly moved closer to Liz, ordering her not to speak to or look at other men. You can only look at me, care about me, and no one else. Dylan's presence was suffocating. In the carriage back to the palace, Dylan gestured for Liz to come closer. She could have refused, but to avoid angering him, she chose to comply. She said she had missed him these past 3 years, but he no longer believed her. He pulled her close and kissed her forcefully against her will. Liz, not to be outdone, bit his lip hard enough to draw blood. You have a unique way of kissing, but I like it. Your Majesty, please let me go. The empire had rapidly developed over the past 3 years, achieving a period of peace and prosperity. But strangely, everyone in the palace wore an expression of fear. As soon as they entered the palace, the maids swarmed around them. Her former personal maid cried, "Imperial tutor, we're so glad you're back." The maids escorted Liz to the Empress's chambers. She was still the Imperial tutor. How could she stay in the Empress's chambers? It was too extravagant. Dylan sat there every night, longing for Liz's return. Ultimately, it was he who had driven himself to this madness. Liz noticed a red jewelry box to the side. Inside were sapphire earrings. She then realized that all the jewelry in the room were things she had once cherished. Even small trinkets she hadn't paid much attention to were perfectly preserved. Dylan must have been choosing things she liked while waiting for her return. He waited like this for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Liz could feel Dylan's suffocating possessiveness and extreme love. Love was truly a powerful force. It could drive a rational person mad. Yet, Dylan remained unwavering. Liz's heart grew heavy because she didn't want to see Dylan hurt. Fate had decreed that they could not be together. Meanwhile, Kaho was also troubled. He too had been missing Liz for the past 3 years. If he had known that their last conversation would be their last, he would have tried to keep her there. His family had been urging him to marry these past few years. But Kaho felt that marrying another woman while his heart belonged to someone else would be incredibly irresponsible. After Liz left, the empire developed in the direction he had feared. The people's competitiveness and patriotism were incited, leading them to eagerly enlist as soldiers. Wars raged both within and outside the empire, causing unrest across the continent. His Majesty still hadn't given up on his final journey. This was even more frightening. Duke Xiao. If a caged bird flies away for freedom, do you think the fault lies with the unbroken wings or with the person who built the cage? When His Majesty asked him that, Kahu felt that Dylan's last thread of rationality was about to snap. When His Majesty asked him that, Kahu felt that Dylan's last thread of rationality was about to snap.